Agnieszka, warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. So good morning from Brussels, where I'm based. I think I will go directly to the slides. I think that will be the best.
Okay, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will maybe first start with saying a few words about Care for Climate project. I would like to congratulate you on the project itself. On first of all, already at the planning stage, you had very good ideas. You had really well thought what's needed at the local level. And this is the main aim of the LIFE program, is that local people think about what is needed for them and put the projects in a way that can reply to the needs and questions that there are at that moment. It's also very important that we are having this conference right now because, as some of you might know, we are celebrating 30 years of the LIFE program. So around 30 years ago, most of the environmental legislation was put in place, and LIFE program was one of the tools to help member states to realize implementation of those policies and making it happen at the very local level. To some extent, we might think, okay, at the very local level, we cannot really say much. I'm a bit fortunate because I'm Polish, so I understood certain things that were said before me in the introduction. So I can tell you that LIFE program to some extent can reply to those big questions, the big questions that the crisis brought, both the health crisis with COVID, but also the current war and the food security issues. It's very little, it's a drop in the ocean, but it is at the level of the people that are living at the particular location in the member states. So we are really encouraging you and all the participants of the conference to think about putting forward projects, because they can be very versatile. They can reply to many issues that you have at local level, and they can fit within the climate policies, but they can also fit with partially with other policies, because we are trying to make it overarching. So just to bring a bit closer the LIFE program and the opportunities that they exist for the 2022 year. On the 17th of May, we have opened the whole LIFE program. I will be concentrating on the climate change part, but of course there's also the environment, there's nature, and there's energy efficiency element to it. As you know, we are trying to reply to the policies. And the LIFE program is relatively stable within a couple of years, but it tries all the time to update to the priorities that we have at that moment. And the current priorities of the Green Deal is obviously to cut the net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. There are other climate laws that we have that we are trying to reach, like climate neutrality by 2050. And there's also a swift on new proposals of different policies. So if we look at the 2030 climate target, we look at the land use, the forestry, and the agriculture regulation, which we saw very nice pictures with the teenager, I think, who was trying to explain the issues that he's seeing there. And of course, the forest strategy, then we have also the social element, because we cannot forget that at the end of the day, people are living in specific locations and they have to adapt. Some of them are adapting because they have to, some of them are adapting because there is awareness, some of them are adapting because the neighbors are adapting. We are a social species, so sometimes we just replicate what our neighbor is doing. And there's also the energy efficiency, as I said, that we are touching, and even to some extent the maritime elements. Just in terms of what is the very new on the policy agenda, is there is a new proposal for the F gases and the ozone depletion substances. So this is a bit of a game changer. The proposal is currently in the discussion in the European Parliament. We hope that it will become a law next year. So this is something that you might already look at if you're interested in this type of projects. Then obviously we were looking at the sustainable carbon cycles, and this is a very holistic approach that the Commission took, looking at the whole cycle, which is linked with the land, which is linked with the industry, and we are now trying to put everything together. We have rolled out a lot of money for the sustainable carbon cycles. It's not only under the LLIFE program, it's also under the cohesion funds. And as maybe some of you know, there's also AGP Soils, which is running since a couple of years, which is European Joint Program on Soil Issues with a very strong carbon element. And there is also a Horizon Europe Soil Mission, again, with a lot of projects which will be looking at the carbon sequestration. We have also the new strategy for the adaptation, and as some of you maybe, I'm not quite sure if you experienced the first heat wave, but definitely Spain has experienced the first heat wave of this year already. We have a lot of drought already in a number of member states, including Belgium, which for many people it's very rainy. And I saw myself that Belgium is really preparing already this year heavily for the drought that will come. Now, just going back to the program and the real elements that we are looking. So for the call 2020, we have the usual climate change adaptation, mitigation, adaptation, and the climate governance information. As you can see, we are really looking at specific actions which will try member states bring the EU policies to the first into implementation, the practical implementation. So we are looking at the actions which will look at the reducing greenhouse gas emissions, enhancing the emission trading system. As I said, the energy efficiency is also under climate change mitigation, but we have also a full dedicated sub-program. And we are looking at the land use practices. In the climate change adaptation, obviously, there's everything about the managing land, about the carbon sequestration, about tools and solutions that we need to adapt. The nature-based solutions, some of them very old, like the natural water retention, very popular in the 50s and 60s. Suddenly we forgot how to do it. We need to start doing it again because it's really good solution for us. It's all about the water management. As I said, preparedness for the extreme events, both at the cities, but also outside of the cities. In terms of climate governance, I just would like to stress that this is really to support the development, implementation, monitoring, and enhancement of the EU legislation. And it's really up to you, the people which are drafting proposal, what you see is the most important in your region, in the place where you would like to implement. Slovenia is quite versatile in terms of landscapes and in terms of weather. You have quite a lot that you can really focus, both in terms of cities and towns and villages, which are coming from Mediterranean to the Alpine region. So quite significant and interesting area that you can work on. We are looking at in this context at the different strategies and plans that you would have and you would like to test and start implementing, making awareness also at the local level. I think I will pass this slide because it's more for the people which are really applying. Just to say a few words about LLIFE climate actions that we have in our portfolio, just to give you a better idea of the scale. So per year we are getting between 150 to 170 proposals. They're roughly split evenly between mitigation and adaptation and a small part on the government. We have indicative budget for 22 of, as you see, a bit more than 60 million euros. So we try to give equal weight for the mitigation and adaptation. and a smaller amount to the government projects. We select between 30 and 40 projects per year. It depends partially on the budget, partially on the quality, obviously, of the proposals. What indicative budget means, it means that we can increase different envelopes depending on the quality of projects and the number of proposals. As I said, we can also increase the budget, but also decrease if there is request from the budgetary authority. But usually we are trying not to decrease the budgets. I'm saying it's a force majeure in this case. Just to remind you, the co-funding is 60%. For 2022, we have one-stage applications. So the deadline for the proposal is 4th of October, which means that you really have quite a lot of time if you wish to apply, to prepare good proposal, put forward your ideas, and we'll be very happy to evaluate. You see, the evaluation process is quite, to some extent, it's quite heavy, but this is what it is. With so many project proposals, we are trying to give the right time for the evaluation so that good proposals can then start as a projects in next year in July 2030. Just to show you a bit of the faces of the colleagues. So as I was introduced, I'm Deputy Head of Unit, but there is a team which is led by Bernd of 8 colleagues that are managing a portfolio of around 225 projects. Every year there are around 50 new projects which are being prepared, and equal number, or a bit smaller number of projects which are being closed. Obviously, this is the team which is also running the evaluation, and there are also additional tasks that the team is performing, which is, for example, policy feedback. So quite often, projects are invited also to Brussels to present results to the policy colleagues in the DGs which are drafting the legal base. We are also organizing info days and different events. And as I said, it's 30 years of LIFE. We are changing, we are adapting. We are always hoping that the environment can be preserved and we can make the difference. And after 30 years, in many member states that were in the program for the past 30 years, obviously, Slovenia, that joined the EU in 2004, wasn't allowed to start in 92. So you can see only the last, less than 20 years of the projects, if you have implemented from the beginning, how they have developed, what is the impact. But we can see big impacts in some of the member states. And we are hoping that in the coming years, more and more projects from Slovenia will come, and you will also see the positive impacts that the LIFE program gives. Thank you very much, and back to the room.